Welcome to Let's Roger That. I'm Gilles. In this episode, it'll be time to make some gears, specifically spur gears. I'm gonna make a gear so that I can turn some metric threads in my imperial lathe. I intend to make this gear, actually the prototype for sure, out of this aluminum. This is 2.5 inch stock. And I'm going to need an arbor in order to hold the blank into the dividing edge. So we're going to be making that. And of course, we'll go through the various calculations required to figure out the gear we need and all that good stuff. So let's get to it. In this video, I'm going to be replacing this. This is called the stub gear. At least it is on the Southbend 13. In order to achieve metric threads on the Southbend 13, some people much smarter than I have figured out that simply by replacing this one to a 34 tooth spur gear, that you could achieve the same result within 0.05%. Okay, what I've got here is the actual stub gear. It's an 18 tooth stub gear from my Southbend 13, and just to be clear, my Southbend 13 has a quick change gear with one lever. So in my case, I purchased a set of involute cutters that are 16 diametral pitch. Now, as you see, I've received them. And I'm actually going to use them to cut the stub gear replacement that I need in order to cut metric threads. Now you're probably going to say, well, Gilles, that's not going to mesh correctly. And you are correct. It's not going to match perfectly, but it is going to mesh. And my experiments with 3D printed gears prove that in a way, except that, you know, it's not a perfect mesh. There's some marring of the teeth, but it did work. So now why would I proceed with these particular involute cutters? Well, number one, I paid $250 for a set including the arbor, whereas one involute cutter at 14 diametral pitch is $200 plus shipping, plus tax, plus whatever. So I'm going to see if we can do this with these 16 diametral pitch involute cutters. All right, here I am in my office and just wanting to go through some of the calculations and features and characteristics that I need to identify in order to proceed with cutting gears. If you have two of the elements figured out, that you can really get along pretty easily. Now, in the previous video, I already explained that my diametral pitch was 14. That's the reality of this particular spur gear. But my involute cutters are diametral pitch 16. So that means what I need to make now, for example, the diameter of my piece of material is going to have to be based for a 16 diametral pitch spur gear, right? And the formula for determining this diametral pitch is N, which is the number of gears, plus 2, divided by the outside diameter. We already know the 16. We know that we want 34 teeth because that's what I found works. So if we have those two measurements, right, the number of teeth and the diametral pressure, we can find the outside diameter, right? So we'll take simply 34 teeth plus 2, so it's 36, divided by 16, and that'll give us the outside diameter, and that gives you 2.25 inches. So now we have all three of these, and the next thing is to identify the pressure angle of the gear. So let's have a quick look at that. So what you see here is a really great representation of the differences between a 20-degree pressure angle and a 14.5-degree pressure angle. As you'll notice, the 20-degree pressure angle is much more triangular, whereas the 14.5 has a square nature. The angle is not quite as pronounced at the top. So that's where the difference is. So clearly, my gear is a 14.5. I've already measured the gear thickness, right? And I need one that's 5/8 of an inch. And the hole is 5/8 of an inch, plus the keyway has a measurement of 190 thousandths. That's the width. And then the depth is 120 thousandths. Now, the next thing we need to figure out is when we cut this gear with the involute cutters, how deep do we go? And that is called the minimal hole depth. It's kind of like a thread, really. You need to know how deep to go. Now, with diametral pressure of 16, the calculation is, that's a standard calculation for 14.5 pressure angle. So it's 2.157, and you need to divide that by the diametral pressure, in this case, 16. And so in reality, we'll cut at 134,000, right? Hopefully, I didn't complicate this. These are the formulas that are out there. And honestly, just keep it simple for yourself. These are the only things you need to know in order to get your gear started. All right, so let's continue. First things first, we're going to cut a couple inches worth of this 2.5-inch diameter aluminum. I need, the piece is going to be, it's now 5/8 of an inch thick, but need a little bit of extra space in order to hold it in my chuck. Put some WD-40 as lubricant. You don't need a whole lot. I need to drill the center hole, which is also 625 thousandths. So let's set up for that. Okay, let's start with a center drill. Okay, so that's it for drilling. Now I've got to set up for a boring operation. So we've got 62 thousandths to cut. And that's it. Quick check time. 628. So 3 thousandths over is more than acceptable. All right, so you know, I made a beautiful little mandrel that was going to work just lovely. But what I didn't count on was that, you know, it's going to be here. Cutting gear, the inverted cutter, going to be too close. So we're going to do it again. So since I'm going to have to do it again, let's take a few measurements. All right, so here's the gear cutter. Let's imagine that the gear's right here. So that's still too close. Let's go this far. Comes through. Yeah, we could probably manage with that. Okay, great. Okay, that'll make more sense. I'll just start over again. Okay, so I've made another arbor. And this one is going to be a little better because it clears everything. So I've already made that to be parallel. Now granted, I know this is my workbench, but honestly this is a gear, you know, like, let's get over it. And I'm within about 2/10 from one end to the next. So that's plenty good for me. I think I'm ready to cut some gears. Okay folks, what I have here is my dividing head. It's a 40-to-1. Otherwise known as a Browning Sharp 0, and as you can see, there's 17 holes on this particular wheel, which means it's a divisible from 34, right? Divided by 2. I guess the next thing I have to go through is the calculations, or how to set this up so that you end up on the same line once you've gone all the way around. Essentially, I'm going to be cutting a 34 tooth gear, right? So great, 34 tooth. I found one of those wheels with a 17, so that's great. So this dividing head requires 40 turns to go one complete turn around. So you take 40 over 34, bring it down to its lowest common denominator, which would be 20 over 17, and keep going with that, and that equals 1 3/17. So with that said, what we got is I've set up this handle so that it's on the 17 circle, and I need to go one full, so make sure I get the correct count. I need to make one full rotation, so that's 1, and then 3, and you don't count the one that you're in, so you go 1, 2, 3. There you go, and just keep on going. So to go to the next one, I bring this back, and I go one full turn plus 3. Fall in the next hole, if this freaking thing could ever work, right there, and you see, I'm on my next, right here. So that works. So now what I need to do is take this to my mill, remove the vise, install this, and get set up to cut some gears. Okay, I'm at the mill. I've got my cutting tool set and leveled because I used my height gauge earlier, of course, to to scribe lines at exactly the center line. So I came back here, centered this with my height gauge. I already made sure that this is parallel, and now I'm going to make some cuts. But before I do that, I just want to remind everybody that when you turn all this stuff, make sure you lock in this lever here to make sure that it doesn't turn. So let me show you when it's not locked in. See, there's some play. So you want to lock that in to eliminate the backlash, right? Lock that in. and then you do your thing. Now, I'm going to use a DRO, thank goodness. And the depth that I have to achieve, the hole depth, as it is called, is 0.1406. So once I touch off here, I will set my zeros for the y-axis, right? So let's get set up. Okay, here we are at the mill. Everything's set up. Everything is locked in. So it's just a matter of getting started. Here we go. I take it slow. That's the first gear cut, or first tooth. Let's stop this now. Yeah, it looks nice. Now, let's go through the process of doing this, right? My fences or my guides are here. Lean against it because we're going to go this way, clockwise. Unlock. Now we have to go 1 full and then 3. Which is right beside the fence, right here. Okay? So that'll be our next cut. Bring back those fence guide, whatever they're called. Lock the spindle, and then we're ready to go again. So let's cut the other one together. Through. We'll come back. And so you know, I'm cutting the full depth right off the bat. Okay, I'm going to stop this again. And one more time, I'm going to do this with you. Okay, unlock the spindle. Go by 1 full rotation. And then go in, this thing will let me here, go in to the 3rd, all right? And bring back the fence guide, whatever you call it, lock the spindle, and then I'm ready for my next one. So I'll keep going and until it's done. As you can see, I'm using my power feed. It makes a cleaner cut when you do that. I'm about 1/4 of the way in. It's just a rinse and repeat exercise until all 34 gears are cut. As you can see, the real-time speed is pretty slow. So if I dragged you along for all this, I don't think you'd be very happy with me. Well, as you can see, I'm on my last tooth. No pun intended. And that's it. It's kind of a time-consuming process, but If you follow the guidelines, it works out pretty good. I'm back at the bench and I've got to make a keyway now. I could make a cutting tool for the lathe, but I don't think so. So I've scribed the center line with one of these, and then I just use my calipers and made the appropriate lines. So now I'm going to put it in the vise and file this sucker. All right, friends, I've taken the stub gear off, installed the prototype, and let me show you how it's working out. I'll just turn this on here. It's on back gear, so it runs slow. So far, so good. It meshes nicely. It's not noisy. Let it run for a little while, just let it break itself in. I mean, if it's going to fail, it'll fail in a short time, but I don't think it's going to. So the next test will be to cut some metric threads. All right, so now that I've installed the gear and it functions correctly, I'm setting things up to cut 1.5 millimeter threads, essentially. So from the chart that I got and showed you earlier, this has to be set up to cut 32 TPI, sorry. And on 32 TPI for my lathe this has to be out, it is. This has to be on the left, it is. And this has to be in this row, and it is. I've set up my lathe to cut in back gears simply because I want it to go nice and slow and really get a feel for this process. Now, my compound's already set at 29 degrees and a half. And so all that's going to require to do here is touch off, engage on one particular number. I'll probably pick, I'm going to pick, say, 2. So it'll take a while because it's in back gears. And then it'll cut the first thread. So then I'll measure it with my gauge and see what happens. All right, I'm setting up this camera so it'll be picture in picture. So that this one will show you basically the various motions around the carriage in order to cut the metric threads. I'm going to follow directions that were shown by Tom at Ox Tools. So if you want a further explanation on that, you can watch his video. I'll put a link in the description. There I am. Set my 0. I'm going to set a 0 on the compound as well, of course. All right. So we're going to go for 2 on the thread dial. All right, let's do it. And it would really help if I engaged it. Dial engaged. Okay, let's try that again. I'm looking for 2 here to come out. And I've set the first thread depth at 10 thousandths of an inch. There it comes. It's nice and slow, all right. So here's what Tom recommended. Disengage, shut off. Okay, we're going to go in reverse and we're going to re-engage on 2. From this point on, I'm going to stay engaged until I come out. And once I'm out, I'm simply going to shut off the lathe. Turn it off. All right, clean the stuff. Get my thread gauge. And ladies and gentlemen, we have 1.5 millimeter threads. Very, very exciting. So this experiment worked. I've got a prototype that works. I could probably cut threads with it, and I might very well try it in some metal round stock just for fun. And but in Delrin's a good choice because it's soft, it's plastic, but it cuts cleanly. And yes, maybe I should show you closer. Let's show you these threads. Look at that, very nice. So see if I can do that with the gauge while you're watching. See, voila. So there you have it. This whole project was to create that gear right here in order to cut metric threads. Now with a 0.05% error rate, it's plenty acceptable, and it'll cut, I'm pretty sure, over a foot, no problem. But who cuts a foot worth of threads? I don't know anyone. For my purposes, it's going to be used in making ER32 fixtures, a whole slew of them. So I'm going to try and see if I can get better precision from this method versus having a die. So it remains to be seen. Something I'll show you in another video, perhaps. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like my content. And I always look forward to reading your comments or questions or answers to some of my problems. So thanks again, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.